Hello, welcome to my project of making a coffin and small crate. This could be used for Dungeons and Dragons, other tabletop games, or just general modeling purposes. These are about a couple of inches big. And here is what I'm using. It's the XPS foam. This is the kind of foam that you get at any type of Home Depot, Lowe's. And this is insulation foam at the very large pieces. I'm going to be cutting it with both a utility knife and with the electric knife. I do not advise ever using the electric knife, and I'll never use it again. Again, that was just an experiment I was doing. The electric knife, what it does is it actually creates all sorts of divots in the foam, and it doesn't give a straight cut whatsoever. Whereas the utility knife, at least that gives you a chance to cut straight. And it also allows you, if you're going pretty slow and careful with it, and going over it multiple times, allows it to not have any divots or any kind of irregularities in it. And here I have the coffin. It's all cut out. There we are. And as you can see, there's divots in it. Even with using the utility knife or even the other device, it still causes it, so you have to go very slow. Would advise strongly to use a hot wire cutter, one of which I don't have. It's not a tool that I own, so I had to use the utility knife. Here I am using a wire brush, and you use this wire brush to create the finer details in terms of wood grain on the foam. I'm not going to be using this type of brush ever again because it's old and it just ripped up the foam at the bottom. I have since invested time in finding my small little wire brush that's brass that works much nicer. So that would be, you'll be seeing that in any future videos if I'm going to be working with XPF foam in the future. And here I'm also using a pencil now to put in the lid of the coffin. And I'll also be putting in all the boards of the coffin and drawing out more highlights, as you can see here. And just by pushing in on the pencil, it actually indents in on the foam and gives the low points on the foam. And these low points can then be getting the darker colors will fill in there on a wash later. And that makes it so you don't have to actually go and paint any of these lines at all later, which is a nice technique. And I'm going to start on the crate because I had extra foam left, and I'm just going to cut out just a very simple square for the crate. And there it is, very simple, nothing too complicated. Again, just going slowly with that utility knife to do it. Going to use a pencil to basically draw it out, and when you draw it out, I'm actually pushing in on it quite a bit. I'll be using a straight edge as well to do this because freehanding it, it's just too messy. You could freehand it, but then it's going to look less straight and more jagged, and I was not looking for that much of a jagged look, although the end product actually ended up looking quite jagged and ragged anyways. So here I am using the straight edge to accomplish that. And when you're pushing in with the pencil, it actually allows you to go down a couple millimeters, so some of it stays highlighted up while other portions are lower, and you can see where the darker part of the pencil that's drawn in there, that's actually recessed down. So the rest of it stays up higher, so it actually looks like it's a 3D little box, as opposed to something that has lines drawn in on it. Here's where I'm going to be basically using the first coat. It is a combination of Mod Podge and black paint, and I've mixed it up in this bottle here, and I never ever am going to be using this type of bottle ever again, because the only way to get the paint out is with an extremely long and thin brush, which means that other brushes do not become an option, which I find out in another project after this one. So be sure to use a bottle or container that has a very wide lip so that you can get the stuff out of the bottle very easily. Now for this little small project that I did, it's fine, but definitely once this mixture is done with, or if I can find a container I can move this mixture into, I'll be definitely doing that. And I used the black paint and Mod Podge together as a first coat because it just saves on time if you mix them together, because then you don't have to put on Mod Podge and then black paint. And the Mod Podge is used to seal the foam so that you can use black washes and the paint stays on well. If you don't, then the washes later will actually not go so well. So here I have painted on brown paint as the next layer, and it's just a very simple brown paint. And you can see here redoing it again a little bit more so you can see for the camera, just brown paint, nothing special, but already you can tell it looks a lot better. Gonna now do highlights, and with a light dry brushing with a tan color, which is very light. And this is going to get all the high points. And with dry brushing, what you want to do is have very little paint on your brush and going over it repetitively, very lightly, and it gets all the high points. And you can see here on the crate, all the high points are there, and the low points, which were the what was been done with the pencil, as well as with I use a paper clip to just draw in all that little lines for the wood grain. Those are all recessed down, so they have the darker brown and the black that was there underneath before. So what I'm going to use next, which is actually off of camera that I didn't record, was the black wash, which is a combination of black paint, water, and a little bit of dish detergent, basically a drop of it, no more. And I will then paint all that wash, which is very light, onto it, and that creates this effect here, which is it gets all the low points. And that's the project, and I hope you liked it. Please continue watching more of my videos, like and subscribe. Also take a look at some of the other tutorials on YouTube, including Black Magic Craft. That's basically where I learned a lot of the use of what to do on XPS foam. Thank you.